Right, good evening, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order. Christy, will you take roll call, please?
John.
Here.
Melanie. Here. Jake.
Here.
Linda.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Melanie, will you lead us, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I approve a publication in front of me. Next is visitors' correspondence. Anyone desiring to speak on any item or issue not on the agenda or on any item on the agenda that does not include a public hearing may do so, but shall be limited to 3 minutes. A person should identify themselves by name and address. Person speaking should not expect the council to engage in back and forth dialogue regarding their comments. Unless an agenda item includes a public hearing, no person may speak during the business portion of the meeting, provided, however, persons speaking during a public hearing are limited to between 5 and 20 minutes. The public is advised that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is located on the north wall of the council chamber, and one copy of all reproducible written material to be discussed at this meeting is available for examination or copying. Do you have any visitors that would like to speak today?
Jim Thiessen Jr., 7506 North 285 Circle. I guess the first question I'd have is, why do I have to give my address and anybody else that comes up here doesn't? You guys can address that later, whether it's any of your staff or anybody, or the attorney, he comes up, he doesn't have to give his address, but I do. But you can deal with that later. The reason I'm up here tonight is to talk about the pool. I felt that my paperwork was according to what I'm supposed to do be on the agenda. And again, here I am being silenced because somebody has a personal vendetta or whatever it is. That day that pool opened in the 70s, I was there. Been in this community my whole life. When I was on the council in the 90s, we tried to get rid of the pool because it cost us too much money. But there was an uproar like you can't believe because we were going to get rid of the pool. So the pool is a service that the city provides. We provide a lot of services in the town that doesn't make us any money. We got a whole police department that does a great job, but that doesn't make us money. Our maintenance people, they don't make us money. They went around and picked up all the sticks and everything and the debris from the storm. That was great, but that doesn't make us money. And you're gonna have cleanup day. I don't know what that costs us, but that's not gonna make us money. So we're providing a service to this community through various things. That pool is what provides community for the youth of this city, plus the families that take them, grandparents or whatever it might be. So under no circumstance should this pool be shut down. And the fact that you did not fix that pool at the end of last season, and you're waiting now to make it so it won't open until June, is that somebody's got a hidden agenda. You're trying to hold back so nobody can get it done. You had $86,000 or whatever the number is. Fix the pool, be done with it. I know some of you up here are smart enough to take care of that tonight. So let's get that done and move forward.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak?
Hi, I'm Jeff Allen, 623 North Spruce Street in Valley, and I just got my water bill yesterday. I've lived here for just a long time, and anyhow, the bills have been like $70 every time, and it's just 1 month, and we haven't done anything different. It's up to $140, and I can't see it's gone up that much. And, I can say whatever, but I remember when Valley was the cheapest water in the state of Nebraska. It was the cheapest. And now it seems like it's the most expensive in the whole state of Nebraska. And I don't understand why it's gone up so much. That's it.
Okay. Jeff, if you want to give your information to Kendra back there, the utility clerk, she can take a look at your bill and contact you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. No problem.
Thank you, Kendra. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm gonna stay.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Good evening.
My name is Kat Leiden. My address is 801 South Valley View Street. I am here today to address two pressing concerns that have been weighing heavily on our community: the recent increase in our water and sewer bills and the ongoing issue of brown water. First, I want to acknowledge the critical role that water plays in our daily lives. It is essential for drinking, cooking, sanitation, and maintaining the health of our homes and businesses. But today, many, if not all of us, are facing significant increases in our water and sewer bills. Specifically, I've noticed that the latest bill no longer includes the first 3,000 gallons of water without charge, a benefit that has been standard for as long as I've lived here. While I understand that there are operational and infrastructure costs contributing to these increases, it has been increasingly difficult for families, seniors on fixed incomes, and small businesses to afford this basic necessity. To give you an example, last year, our total water bill was $695 that I calculated. With the projected increase, if we use the same amount of water this year, our bill will rise to $1,063, which is a staggering 52.9% increase. At the same time, many households across Valley continue to experience brown water coming out of our faucets. This issue is not only unsightly, but it raises serious concerns about the safety and quality of the water we rely on. Additionally, residents have been told to run their faucets until the water clears and that ice pigging will push debris through the pipes. This is simply not a sustainable or safe solution, especially if we are paying higher rates for water that may be contaminated or unsafe. I have made an effort to stay informed by listening to meetings and reviewing minutes, including the March meeting where we delayed construction at the water plant and that everything was discussed. However, I have not seen a clear explanation as to why the 2,000 and 3,000 gallon allowance for water and sewage usage has been revoked. I understand that there are essential projects such as the filter media replacements, water pump tower repairs, the pump station upgrades that are driving need for additional funding, but I have not seen sufficient information on how these projects will directly improve the quality and reliability of our water supply. I'm not here just to criticize the hard work of the council or the community, nor do I claim to have a perfect solution. What I'm asking today is for transparency. With what our water bills set to increase by almost 53%, we deserve to understand why these changes are being made, especially the removal of the 2,000 and 3,000 gallon allowances, and what tangible results we are to expect from the planned maintenance and improvements that are driving these costs. I just look forward to hearing from the council's plans and just the steps in addressing these critical communication issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have copies for everybody.
Anyone else?
Brent Thiessen, 400 South Park Ave. Of course, the water bill's a huge topic. I guess I know for a fact that you guys can't read my water because I have pretty good friends with most of the water department because I used to work for them. My water meter has not worked in 6 years, and I know that for a fact. And somehow my bill keeps increasing. You are estimating my bill every month, and somehow it increases. So there's a problem there. At the end of that, my other problem is I have several residents on 400 South Park that have called the city office multiple times with no response. Nobody calls them back. The phone just rings and nobody picks it up or can give them an answer on what is going on with 400 South Park, the whole street. We've had surveyors coming out on the street. Nobody knows what's going on. So we are just left in the dark down there, and we'd like some info on Park Street if we could get that, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Kendra, can you also take a look at that address tomorrow as well? Thank you.
Go first.
Anyone else? Okay. Next, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. One thing we do need to change for sure on the agenda is the removal of number 15, which is the adoption of the International Building Code, as that is not ready to be presented. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Vote please. All in favor? And that, sorry, Christie is with the removal of number 15. Okay. We need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Vote please. All in favor? All right, number 8, Jim Teason Jr. signs on public right-of-way request to not allow except for nonprofit.
Sorry. Jim Teason Jr., same address unless you change the locks. The reason I've come up here, it won't be long, we're gonna be in storm season. And there's gonna be 20, 30 signs in every intersection, which there's one out at the Pines right now that's been there for 2 weeks. When I stopped Monday to talk to the city administrator, I was informed there is an ordinance in place. What I wanna see done is somebody needs to enforce it. And I don't care if the public works guys pick them up or the police officers. I had one gal in the office said, well, I can't leave the office to do it. I said, it's not her job. Your inspector said, I can go do it. I said, no, that's not your job. You have guys that are out in the street every day. The reason I want them picked up is because, one, it looks horrible. And secondly, the only ones I want to see be allowed are nonprofits, whether it's a hamburger feed, the Knights of Columbus, fireworks stands, because those get picked up right away. Once a hamburger feed's over 24 hours later, they're all picked up. So if it's nonprofit, I still want to have the access to it. But all these other signs that are, and I saw 2 more in Valley Shores tonight coming around. So it just needs to be done. And I don't know who's supposed to do it. I guess that's what I'm asking. Whose responsibility is to enforce that?
Well, and Rune can talk about it a little bit more, but it would be the same thing as our normal code enforcement, which is to submit the request either through online or calling in to Beth, and then she handles that through the normal code enforcement process. But Rune can talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Can you talk about it real quick?
So our current code is 8.05.05, temporary signs. So to what Jim was saying, there's, with the nonprofit, we have in place what it says. I'm gonna give you guys the highlights, I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but, so temporary signs may be for a continual period. Said temporary signs shall not be in place for more than 4 days prior to an event and shall be removed 36 hours of conclusion of said event. So that's kind of what Jim's talking of, events. It doesn't specify nonprofits. Event isn't defined in our code. So that's probably up to my interpretation a little bit. Is that a garage sale? That's an event, I would assume, or we can create a definition for event that maybe excludes certain things. So currently that's in there, and then it goes on 8.05.07, other signs forfeited. So any sign installed or placed on public property, except in conformance with the requirements of this section, which is where we can reference back to the events portion, shall be forfeit to the public and subject to confiscation. In addition to other remedies here under, the city shall have the right to recover from the owner or person placing such sign full cost of removal and disposal of such sign. So with that, again, we've got that event is written in there. I looked, we don't have a definition for event. It can be pretty self-explainable, but again, it's a, like an open house for a home being sold from Saturday from noon until 4. It's probably an event. It probably falls under of an event. So we would just need to do some clarification if we want to go that route. 2, I talked with Tim today. I picked up a couple signs on my way through inspections. The problem is I don't hit everything when I'm doing inspections. I take like 3 routes out of town usually. They went on Friday in preparation for getting ready to mow. They grabbed some at the Meigs and 270th.
And they do already do that. They just obviously haven't been mowing yet for this year.
Well,
Yeah.
if we stop it now, they'll know. But my point is, like he's saying, if it's garage sales, all this, we got enough social media going on. You don't need signs to put out anymore. People see that. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
I never was on Facebook forever and I got it. And I mean, I know why it's crazy, but there's opportunities for open houses, everything. What I'm saying is these guys are coming in from Oklahoma, Kansas, wherever they might be showing up with, when you see out of town numbers, you know they're not gonna be around. So
yeah, I
I just
mean,
want the council to fix it. It should be nonprofits only.
yeah, we'd have to change the code to do that, so.
Yeah.
I mean, the council would have to, and then, I mean, I don't know who would be responsible for determining or making sure someone's a nonprofit. We'd have to have an application process.
Probably,
It's,
yeah.
it's not that hard. There's only about 4 of them in town that do it. You got your fireworks stands, you got your Knights of Columbus, you got the hamburger feed.
I understand for us it isn't, but for our police officers, our public works who might not live here in town or might not know the places, they have to have direction on what to do,
Well, they could
unfortunately.
probably call you or any of the council members and ask them. I mean,
Yeah. Do you
let's
guys
not reinvent the wheel
wanna
here.
have
Let's
them
just
call you
fix
every
it.
time they go do it?
That's fine.
Okay, there you go. So someone would need to work with Fern to see what changes to the ordinances you want to have and determine who the council contact is for the employees to contact every time,
That's
if
fine.
that's what y'all wanna move
Thanks,
forward.
Linda.
You can call me.
All right.
Well, yeah, if you guys want, like I said, that's what we currently have. So if we want to change it to just specify nonprofits, then do we only allow local nonprofits? Probably have to talk to Jeff about that, if that's even allowed to. Is it other nonprofits? Habitat for Humanity, is that allowed? They're not a local one? Again, these are the questions that I need answered because I can't enforce the code if there's not. I need specific things to enforce and fair things to enforce to everybody. So if it states, hey, these are the 4 nonprofits that we allow, great. I just need to have it either a way to track it, a way to, so what if a new nonprofit comes up?
Will they
Again.
have to have a 501c3 or can it be a nonprofit that isn't technically a 501c3?
Right, so that stuff, again, I'm fine with that. I have to know, because currently it's just for an event and it's pretty broad. So, and again, potentially a definition of said event that maybe excludes garage sales, open houses, again, stuff like that. So if you guys have something, let me know. Yeah, think about it. You guys have my contact information, so.
You guys can let Fern know. All right, proclamations. We have several proclamations this week, or this month. I apologize, I am required to read all of these, so sorry to all of you. So the first one we have is Arbor Day. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees are important to our environment, and whereas trees give us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and whereas trees in our city beautify our community, and whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy. Now therefore, I, Mayor Cindy Grove, do hereby proclaim April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day in the city of Valley, Nebraska. And I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And we will be having an Arbor Day celebration on April 25th at the school. I believe it's at 8:30 in the morning, Cameron, is that right? Okay, so if anyone would like to attend, it will be at the school. All right, the next one we have is National Library Week 2025, April 6th through 12th. Whereas libraries spark creativity, fuel imagination, and inspire lifelong learning, offering a space where individuals of all ages can explore new ideas and be drawn to new possibilities. And whereas libraries serve as vibrant community hubs, connecting people with knowledge, technology, and resources, while fostering civic engagement, critical thinking, and lifelong learning. And whereas libraries provide free and equitable access to books, digital tools, and innovative programming, ensuring that all individuals, regardless of background, have the support they need to learn, connect, and thrive. And whereas libraries partner with schools, businesses, and organizations, connecting the dots to maximize resources, increase efficiency, and expand access to essential services, strengthening the entire community. And whereas libraries empower job seekers, entrepreneurs, and lifelong learners by providing access to resources, training, and opportunities that support career growth and economic success. And whereas libraries nurture young minds through storytime, STEM programs, and literacy initiatives, fostering curiosity and a love of learning that lasts a lifetime. And whereas libraries protect the right to read, think, and explore without censorship, standing as champions of intellectual freedom and free expression. And whereas dedicated librarians and library workers provide welcoming spaces that inspire discovery, collaboration, and creativity for all. And whereas libraries, librarians, and library workers across the country are joining together to celebrate National Library Week under the theme Drawn to the Library. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Cindy Grove, Mayor of the City of Valley, proclaim April 6th through the 12th, 2025 as National Library Week. During this week, I encourage all residents to visit their library, explore its resources, and celebrate all the ways that the libraries draw us together as a community. So thank you, Sammy. Sammy, our library director, is back there. Thank you to you and your staff for everything you do. All right, last but not least, 56th Annual Professional Municipal Clerks Week, May 4th through the 10th, 2025. Whereas the office of the Professional Municipal Clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world. Whereas the office of Professional Municipal Clerks is the oldest among public servants. Whereas the office of the Professional Municipal Clerk provides a professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels. Whereas professional municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal services to all. Whereas a professional municipal clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and the community. Whereas professional municipal clerks continue to strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the professional municipal clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations. And whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the professional municipal clerk. Now therefore, I, Cindy Grove, Mayor of City of Valley, do hereby recognize the week of May 4th through May 10th, 2025 as Professional Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend appreciation to our professional municipal clerk, Christy Donnermeyer, and to all professional municipal clerks for their vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. Thank you very much, Christy, for trying to keep us in line. We appreciate it. All right, number 10, City Pool, consideration and action to authorize the city administrator to proceed with the city's procurement process to get bids for the repair of the pool. Cameron?
Council members, Cameron Gale, City Administrator, 11673 Ronald Boulevard. Want to provide an update from last month. I was able to get a little more detail and provided the council with an overview of where things currently stand. And so to touch on a little bit of that, community pools have a lifespan of about 20 to 50 years. And we currently know where our pool stands. And that's not necessarily a deal breaker. That's not necessarily a fatal flaw. The current needs of the pool, we received 3 estimates. They're not provided because if we do go forward, there'll have to be public procurement, and we want to protect the people, the companies that submitted these bids for the council. If you like those, I'll provide them to you, but we have to keep those. They're not public information. So currently the pool needs, we have quotes for, that did not include removal of piping filters at the enclosure. The current estimates we have, one was for $86,000, the other one was for $95,000, and the last one was for $116,000. Now, with those estimates, they do not include those unexplained things, like the tear back of the kiddie pool, any other mechanical issues they weren't able to diagnose because they would have to start the pool. And it's not that season. So let's talk about scheduling to take into consideration. If we move forward, we can anticipate that due to the cost of the project, there will have to be a public procurement process that can be anywhere from 15 to 30 days. Even 15 days on the light side, we review those, and then we'd have to have a special council meeting if it did align with council to be able to accept those estimates. After that, is subject to that contractor's availability to start. Each estimate I've received has stated that it's going to take anywhere from a month to a month and a half to complete. And that's best case scenario, no other issues found. At that rate, that will put us at the close to July 22nd before any option of completion. That's pretty much the end of our pool season. So With that said, the current location, sand backfill around pool and the PVC pipe will not be supported correctly. The sand will have too much give and will cause the pipe to sag, causing cracking and other improper damages. Those are some of those things that should be taken in consideration when we're looking at the current location. Now, current site, if you decide to rebuild there, the upside to it, still walkable for the kids in the community. As stated by so many people, the historical connection to the community will remain. Now, the other side of that is looking at emergency response time. Pool at its current location, you have to pass 20 to 25 single-family driveways, low-density residential, creating a longer response time in the case of an emergency. Current building standards would double the footprint of the current location from about 15,000 square feet to a little under 32,000 square feet. That's to include the bathhouse, piping, pumps, everything that goes with a new pool. And also stated that with the sand backfilled around the pool, pipes may not be supported correctly, temporary fix to, a ever-changing problem. Another option is to relocate and build a pool. A location would be the Twin Rivers YMCA. The upside would be improved safety, proximity to the YMCA and adult staff, removing staffing concerns due to lifeguards not being able to have two shifts and transport themselves throughout the duration of the day, causing, issues with staffing and lifeguards. Severe weather accommodations, being in close proximity to the YMCA. In the case of a tornado, thunderstorm, et cetera, there's accessibility to adequate shelter. New development potential as well. There's been conversations and interest in commercial and residential options to encompass the pool in the area, along with some senior living and housing. Now, the downside of it, two sides to everything, we'd be removing a piece of history from the Valley City Park. And that's definitely something to take in consideration. Offer a comparison of our current pool and what was done at the Glenwood Aquatic Center. Differences and participation at the pool, all things similar. The adult participation is higher, the youth participation is higher, and then also, the age to 65 and up, well, under 4, participation was up as well. And that's just the mere fact of new amenities, zero entry pool, different amenities for children. So all those drove, the popularity of that location. Now, similarities, high community engagement, we know that. Affordable pricing, that's definitely something we look to continue. Transportation, we know that majority of our kids walk from the YMCA, and then the other majority of them are dropped off via vehicle. Now, some of the differences is the additional programming that would be able to come with having it at the YMCA location. Also, attendance tracking. Pool data offers the community a more centric, perspective and what's clear, the delineation between, the old pool and the new, and then daily attendance trends. So as you take all of this into consideration, keep in mind, council and public, that the goal is not to remove the pool. The pool, in some way, shape, form, or fashion, will remain in the community at a reasonable price for families and their children. Now, keeping in mind the level of investment that will go into keeping it at the current location, either repairing it or rebuilding or building it at a different site, the pool more than likely will not open this year. So with that in mind, the next steps are to, with the information provided, action be made on giving me the authority to move forward with an RFP process with the understanding that best case scenario, the prices stay the same. Worst case scenario, the prices change and the pool still doesn't open this year. If we move away from that, that leaves us with more time and options to look at viable funding opportunities, viable opportunities, and find a middle ground for the situation. So I'll leave you guys with that. Any questions?
Was Jerry gonna talk at all too?
If we had any questions,
Okay.
because I allow one person to come up with me, I gotta allow everyone, so.
Sorry, this might be stupid, but what does RFP mean?
Request for proposals.
Okay, just want to make sure.
I have a couple questions. Number one, if it goes out by the Y, is it the city building it or the Y building it?
It's a city building.
City building. Number two, you talk about the sand up there. How can Mallard, which is a sand pit, have swimming pools put in there? People are putting them in their yards and not have a problem with sand in the pipes. You can't, that doesn't fly with me.
I think they probably do.
I
mean-
I can speak on that.
Yeah.
Just really quickly.
Well, they wouldn't be putting them in if they created a big problem.
Almost 99, I would think. I can't think of one that doesn't. I would say that almost all the pools, every single one I've seen, all the surcharge is held back by a retaining wall, usually an engineered retaining wall. So sand, dirt, whatever happens between the house and the lake or the house and said retaining wall, that's usually where the pool goes.
The majority of them are off the lake that are putting the pools in.
Well, they might have lake, they might be up against the lake, but they've got a retaining wall that's holding back that surcharge.
No, they're up against 270th Street. They're not up against the lake.
Well, most of my pools that I do are houses that are right on the lake.
Mhm.
Blue water, flat water. There's been a handful in Valley Shores, but like I said, I think all of them that I can think of in the last 3 years have had a retaining wall holding that surcharge. So that's just that, I'm not an engineer, I don't know anything about the sand and the sloughing. I can just tell you that the difference is most of those are up against engineered retaining walls that are holding all that fill in one place. So,
Furthermore, Council Member Lewis, these are quotes and estimates from professionals. I'm not here to disprove the validity of what's needed, what's not needed, or how. You know, those pools could have been built in, last 10, 20 years. We're looking at different technology. That's why a rebuild is an option to remedy some of those problems. But again, that comes with its own problems. So, any other questions?
So the request is just to make a motion to approve you moving forward with fixing the existing pool right now so that we can have a pool open for 2025, correct?
Correct.
For a portion of 2025,
It says June 22nd or July.
July
July
22nd.
22nd, best case scenario.
And when does the pool close?
August 10th.
Yeah,
Labor Day.
Labor Day, August 11th.
Well, I'm very, very, very disappointed that the pool is not opening. That's all I'm gonna say.
So when we close on August 10th, what is our proactive plan when we drain that pool? Are we gonna check its pipes and everything else, or are we just gonna shut it down and check it next year? What's the plan?
If it's fixed at the current location, it's gonna basically be torn out to some degree to replace the piping. You're gonna get as close as you can to a rebuild without a rebuild. And again, that's not the mechanical, it's not the electrical, that's not the bath area. So, it's, it's been expressed, it's a Band-Aid till the next issue occurs.
And what normally happens is that even if it's working at the end of the season, when all of those pipes freeze and if you don't get all the water out of it, they break over the winter. The reason we left it open this year is because 9 times out of 10 something happens over the winter. So we left it open, we didn't want to fix it and then have something freeze and break again over the winter. So even if you fix it and say it's good at the end of the year, because of the pitch and where everything lays, if you don't get absolutely every piece of water drained and the cracks pipe, then you have to break up concrete again when you start, and you don't know that until you fill the pool for the new year. So it's not, I mean, I wish it was that easy to fix it in August and have it work, but I mean, Jerry, you can probably attest to this better than I can, so that it's somebody that's an expert in pools, more of an expert, but
I'm not really an expert,
Why?
but know a little bit. I'm Jerry Rennie. My address is S117 Cedar Lane. I'm the executive director of the Twin Rivers YMCA. I think over the last 2 years, we've been operating the swimming pool for a few years now, but the issues that they were having is with the piping. They put the fill in, what happened is the pipe, like they said at the end, when they drain the water, city employees drain the water, what happens is that the sub moisture, the sub floor there kind of gives. And what happens when the pipe gives, they can't drain all the water out. And then when it freezes, then it breaks the pipe. And then that's how you get the leak. Last year it was leaking probably about 6 inches a day that we were filling the pool up with every day to make sure we have the swimming pool. In the last 2 years, it's been a little bit later in the year, usually about July 1st, to get things fixed. And last year it was a filter. We had an issue with the filter, and luckily they were able to find a filter in time to at least get it open up in July. And so that's kind of the things on the swimming pool when you do that. You have to have a really good base, kind of what you were talking about. Cameron was talking about, to make sure the pipes don't give.
So do we know that the pipe actually froze and broke? Do we know that for sure? I mean, do you have to put water into it
No,
to find out?
A portion of it was scoped, and that was before Doug left. He looked into that. The pipes busted. It's like Jerry explained and like the estimate explained, it's the expansion and the design.
Same issue you have with any outdoor pool.
So Jerry, can you comment on the ADA access, or Cameron, can you comment on the ADA access if we're able to redo this at the current site?
The way ADA works is under the current standards, not a grandfather clause. What it boils down to is if we rebuild and pull a permit, we have to build it to standard. That's new everything, to be able to be handicap accessible. And the thing with that is, like I said, you're not grandfathered in, but it takes one person to not be able to access it. And it's a $20,000 a day fine till it's fixed. So
in your drawing, if we're going to look at rebuilding at the current site, your drawing basically doubles the size of the existing footprint, but it does not double the size of the pool, correct? It just doubles the size of the footprint?
doubles the size of the footprint to accommodate entry, handicap accessible entry and other extensions.
in the drawing or the square footage, does that include the fill needed to bring it up out of the floodplain, or is that in addition to the 32,000 square foot? Do you know?
The fill wasn't even part of the equation.
Rune, do you know how that works
What's that?
with relation to fill to bring that up out of the floodplain? Are we able to fill at some point in the floodplain and keep it full?
So this conversation has been brought up. So FEMA, the last time I checked, on residential pools, my assumption is it's similar for commercial pools. FEMA the pool would not necessarily have to be raised out of the floodplain. Putting my floodplain administrator hat on, if it's an asset, when we get another flood, hopefully we never do, but if you're talking silt, you're talking everything that's gonna get into said pool. I don't know if the costs outweigh that potential cost to redo pumps, redo filters, redo everything to get all the silt out as it does to elevate the building. I'd have to do a little bit more research into this, but at least from my understanding, even like the bathrooms, that stuff could theoretically be what they call wet-proofed in FEMA, where you just have flood openings It's all concrete. You can't have electrical HVAC. All of your pumps would have to be above the BFE, that's your base flood elevation. FEMA states that if you're at your base flood elevation, you are reasonably safe from flooding. Those are the words they use. It's of course not a guarantee. The state adds another 1 foot freeboard on top of that. Long story short, I would have to double check, but I'm fairly certain that it wouldn't have to be elevated as long as certain steps were taken to have it wet-proof for the electrical equipment, stuff like that, elevated for that. So I know, I can tell you for a fact, none of the pools out here, and I had a conversation with the state NRD, FEMA, there's not much risk in a pool when it floods. I mean, there is probably with the pumps and everything else, but on FEMA's life safety, they're less concerned about it. So.
Jerry, from your perspective as the person who would be in charge of staffing this as the YMCA, could you staff this from July 20 to that August 10 timeframe?
You know, usually what we do is when we do staff, and we start about April 15th, you know, to find staffing for it. I think it would be difficult to do. I mean, it's not saying we can't do that, but it'd be definitely difficult. Because you've got other people that want a lifeguard and might want to lifeguard some other outdoor swimming pools. If they know that, hey, this pool's not going to open up till this time, it's going to be a little more difficult. But I think we can definitely make it happen, you know, to do and get, we have a good staff right now, but when summertime, everybody wants to be a lifeguard outside instead of inside. So, but we would do everything possible to make sure that we can do that.
Then can you clarify on the same staffing issue, can you clarify the difference between if this pool was on-site as it may be down the road versus off-site as it is now, and the staffing differentials there from your standpoint?
Well, I think it would make it a lot easier for us staffing. There's kind of a state law that anybody under the age of 16, and a lot of times your lifeguards are 15, 16 years old, is that one, we can't transport them if they work at the Y to the city pool. You know, if they could have a shift at the YMCA to the city pool, you can't do that. And if you do have somebody in the car, they have to have, a supervisor has to go with them. I mean, on other lifeguards as well. I mean, there's some kind of goofy rules and laws on that. But I think the reason, if it is by the Y, we're looking at, we do have some land available there. I think the nice thing is the safety element. One, it'd be close to the Y in proximity. And what we can do is we have extra staff in the Y building. If there's an issue, we're just right there across the parking lot that we can be there. And we can also, by definition, is that the staff can go back and forth there too as well. And kind of the safety issue that if there's a severe storm that comes up, we have people that we can bring them in and into the facility to help out as well. But in the eyes of everybody, I think it's a safety concern. Like I said, with us being far away, operating the city pool, to be able to get there, have somebody also get there to help out. You know, we're a little bit of ways away to get there. If there's some kids that are fighting or anything like that, you know, we can have other additional staff there if it's next to the Y like that, so.
Does the city currently have a contract with you at the Y for this year or no?
Yes.
Thank you.
Couple of questions. How much would a complete new build of a new pool by the Y be?
A new pool, you're looking at anywhere from 3.5 to 5 million for a brand new pool at either location.
Where would those funds come from?
You know, it would have to be a capital campaign, part of it, and then we'd have to look at, you know, our current sales tax.
We just forfeited those all to EA, didn't we?
Forfeit all of, no, that's
Sales tax
state,
or
that's
portion?
state sales tax. Talking about both. So
We tax the people enough around here.
it would be an increase in tax.
Yeah, it wouldn't be increased. We're talking about changing where our local option sales tax goes. We talked about that before this piece of it came up, so definitely an option.
How much do we get in option sales tax a year?
About 2 million a year.
So no matter where you build it, it'd be about the same price, is that what you're saying.
We put the same pool in both locations.
And the park restructuring, whatever, didn't have the pool in the bid over there, correct?
The pool has always been included in the first and second phase of the park plan. Now, the decision was always, am I misspeaking? I'm just trying to make sure I don't want to misspeak, but the plan was always, it wasn't to remove the pool. A lot of this conversation is in light of the current condition of it.
So then if you go with the park, continue with the park renovation.
Mhm.
The pool is included in that to rebuild it, correct?
No. It's not included,
We've only done phase one with the park, right?
correct?
So we can make adjustments to phase two if we want to leave the pool where it's at. We fund that, right?
That runs into a problem of funding second phase, funding pool. We have to, it's a decision, it has to be, one or the other.
How is phase two funded?
Isn't funded currently.
We haven't done it yet.
Would it be grants or would it just be city income?
It'd be a mixture. Doug's applied for different grants. It's an annual grant that we're looking at for, upwards of $400,000 that could potentially be used for safe and inclusive playground space. There's options.
Is there grants for pools?
There are two. One we won't qualify for because it's a turnback tax. And so we're using our turnback tax opportunity for the Elkhorn Athletic Project.
Mhm.
Now, it's other funding mechanisms, but those kind of tie into contributions like the CHIEF grant. That's where a citizen, donates $500. A citizen gets 100% of that back in state tax credits. Businesses get 50% back. Those are different mechanisms that are out there. But ultimately, I just need to know which direction to go.
Too, Cameron, with putting the pool in the existing park, for sure we lose the smaller baseball field or t-ball field, right? Do you know what else we lose in that option?
Well, that design did its best to keep it away from the new parking lot because we don't want to have to build additional parking around the other side of it.
At one point, there was a discussion of eliminating Legion baseball field in lieu of the pool to make room for the pool that could be built on other ground. I don't think that's an option that we are interested in or can entertaining.
I'm not saying they're mentioning.
I don't remember that conversation
Just sign an
about the
agreement with
Legion
the
field
Legion.
being removed
Nothing's
for the
happened.
pool.
Probably at the beginning of the JEO discussions related to, do we want to try to do that as part of phase two? I don't think that's a good option. I'm just saying that was thrown out there. I don't think it's a reasonable option. That would have been maybe 18 months ago when we started that.
That's not a part of, to your question, that's not a part of any,
How long's your agreement for the Legion field currently?
that's not a part of any plan that I brought before you. It's, the baseball field is,
Well, they're trying to.
I've seen firsthand that baseball field gets used, so. Any other
Any
questions?
idea?
I'm trying to figure out on
That's
this
what I thought you
image
said, 25. All right, bye.
where, so that's the plate, so that, it's like if you're looking at this page, is it like this corner right here, that's the field?
The Legion field isn't in this picture.
Or Legion field's not in it.
It's just the small t-ball field that we
That's
made it
the
usable a couple years
plane
ago.
that's there right now.
Yeah. And that's the front entrance right now.
Mhm.
So the
You have a
placement of
25-year
you,
agreement with the Legion right now.
it takes over
No comments from the audience,
This-
please.
this
Well, you
green
gotta know what you're
space.
talking about.
No comments from the
Yeah,
audience.
it looks like, I
Little
think
bit tall.
the main baseball, so your main entrance is down here,
Okay,
that's the parking lot here,
okay,
pickleball, pickleball courts, just to orient yourself, so the Legion field's like,
It's way over here.
oh,
yeah, cause here's the big dog park, so
yeah,
it's like, you can actually maybe see it.
Yeah, this doesn't touch the
It's like
Legion
over
field.
here. Yeah.
So the current site rebuild won't touch any of that?
It's the small T-ball field that I was talking about.
Okay.
That will
It
be
doesn't
lost.
touch the Legion.
No, Legion Field isn't touched in any of the phases of the park.
Do we
Potential
use the small T-ball field a lot?
Yes, it became, DC West Youth Sports, made it usable, I think, 2 years ago. And they do some sort of T-ball on it.
And that small T-ball field is right there.
Yep.
Okay.
And we don't have to make any decisions about the future. The decision we need today is whether or not you want to authorize the city administrator to move forward with the RFP process to fix the existing pool. That is the immediate decision that is needed today. Obviously, the other options play into it, and you needed to know that to be able to make that decision, but it is not one that
I
needs
make a
to
motion we fix the pool.
I don't think we're looking at fixing the pool. I think we're looking at getting options to fix the pool. I think that's probably what we're saying is.
I want it so that next month, we vote either fix it or we don't. We accept a bid or we don't.
I think he said the RFP process, correct me if I'm wrong, we may not have data back and bids back within 30 days.
We could do 15 days at a minimum, but everything coming back, review, it would line up pretty tight to the next council meeting.
The Valley Pool project timeline states council approval May 12th. That's what he's saying. So I say we get the bids in so we can make the motion and approve it or not, whatever, and go from there.
Would you be able to, I was reading in here, like include like quotes for like I saw someone repainting the inside of it,
You know,
things like that.
that's the thing, the devil's in the details. This late in the year, pool builders are like, I won't generalize, most contractors, they're gonna put the bare minimum in the bid so that they can come back later and ask for change orders, because they think cities take the lowest, most responsive bid, but not in this case. So
Jerry, do you remember when we repainted it last? Usually the painting is done by the Public Works Department annually or however often they do. Normally, we wouldn't contract that out. Our team does that internally.
Oh.
So that would be the same.
I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, it's
Was
not
it?
something you have to paint every year,
No.
so.
You don't. So sometimes, I mean, there's been a couple of years where they've filled it and the filters haven't been working right, and then it discolors the bottom of the pool, and they've had to paint it. But that is something we do internally with Public Works, not contracting out.
Just point of clarification, Greg, we'd be talking about advertising for bids, not for an RFP, I mean, to be technically correct, is that right?
Yeah, so, yeah.
I mean, there's a difference in my mind. We would, what Linda wants to do
I want a bid.
is advertise for bids. I just want to make sure we all know what we're talking about here.
So if we advertise for bid, then our RFP for those bids have to be specific to what needs to be fixed. It has to be all encompassing, because they're going to need parameters to create their bid. And the estimates we have now are from people who've been there and seen it.
So who would prepare the bid packet, the plans and specs and the bids that would that be a pool expert? That wouldn't be your office, would it? So who is that and how long would that take?
Yeah, that's great. I'm not an engineer.
I will gladly help, but basically to like Cindy's point here just a little bit ago, Public Works really has anchored the pool maintenance, painting, anything like that. I've been talking like with Doug historically, or Kenny before him, over the years I've been around, that I hear of what's going on, but I told Cameron last week, I said, I don't exactly know what's going on until anything that we need to do with a state permit, like when we had to get the new filters, we have to turn those into the state to get a permit, that we will gladly get that package out on the street or process it with the state to get the appropriate permits. So we can gladly do that, but to Jeff's point is to get something on the street here that's definitive for, like Cameron was talking about, a scope of work that really just needs to be identified. And Cindy, you were correct, as I remember talking with Doug, is that what was unveiled last year was all camera, or Linda, you were asking about that, it was all camera on the existing pipes to find out what damages has occurred and such like that. But to get that into a package so that way you can get a bid to know what it is gonna be to cost, it will take a little bit of work, so.
How much work? Will we be able to have a bid, 3 bids by May 12th? That's the question.
Let me get I can gladly help. I honestly just talked about this last week, so I'm coming in right now. I mean, I've sat in the same meetings you guys have on what was gonna be potentially doing, but I've never watched the tapes or looked at any of the old drawings to say, do they even exist? Can we use old drawings to say, we need to replace this pipe? How many feet of pipe do we need to place? How much concrete do we have to do? Yes, some of these contractors have been by these sites or by the pool to identify what they think is going to be, but I'm sure comparing those 3 are not necessarily apples to apples either on what is included or what is not included.
And of those 3, only one of those estimates are from a design that they got with room to get the actual blueprints of the pool to understand that piece of it. So that's probably the one that's on the higher end. So.
Well, the bids are only as good as what you give them that they have to bid on. And Cameron made an excellent point. I've had a couple of pools and other entities that I've represented over the years, and everything's underground. So, I mean, when you get in there, there's a very real chance that there will be more, when they get into it. But the bids, they can only bid on what you tell them they're bidding on. And then if there are more things, additional things that they see that have to be fixed, they'll present a change order and, with a number on it. And so, I mean, I guess my point is it's not as easy as just, well, let's put it out for bid. You got to know and do the best you can to identify what they're bidding on, to try and eliminate as many surprises as you can, and there may still be some. So that happens first, and then when you get that, you put it out for bids. It has to be, 3 publications?
Right.
Bids have to be open 20 days, you usually publish and do it on the 21st day. So, if it takes a week or 2 to do that, then you can add another 3 weeks.
Well, the city has really dropped the ball on the citizens of Valley. I'm almost embarrassed and ashamed to be part of this anymore.
I think it's still worth having the details and knowing what we're up against, whether it's gonna open this year or next year. I mean, it's smart to have all the details. And so we may as well go through the RFP process and find out what we really need to do to repair this so we have an accurate cost, get the bids. Even if we don't do the work this year, we likely would do it for next year, either that or we have a discussion around whether we move to a different option of total rebuild, new build, whether on this site or a different site.
Yeah.
So I would second your motion, Linda, to at least get the RFP. I mean, we need the
A
data.
bid, not the RFP bid, like Jeff said.
Yeah, you can always reject the bids. The terms of the bids that are published say that you can reject any or all bids. So that's the only way you're gonna get any accurate information, but you have to go through the first part we discussed to have a good bid. So I'd say if you're in a hurry, the way to do it is to do that and identify those dates, and maybe we have to have a special council meeting.
Sure. All right, I have a motion and a second on the table. Vote, please. All in favor? Thank you. Okay,
Thanks, Cameron. Thanks, Gary.
so then number 11, DC West Post Prom Committee request. This is the request, are you talking? Sorry. No, please do. I apologize. I did not realize you were here to talk on that.
My name is Beth Roy, 27280 State Street. Member of the DC West High School Post Prom Committee. We are reaching out to see if we can ask for support in making our post prom event a safe, fun, and memorable experience for our students. Post prom is an organized, substance-free event held after the prom to ensure our students have a safe and enjoyable celebration. It's a tradition at DC West that helps keep our teens off the roads and out of harm's way on what can be a high-risk night. This year's events will include games, activities, food, prizes, all designed to provide a positive and exciting exciting environment for our students. We're just asking if you guys would be willing to partner with us and give us some donations for our kids.
And so the thing that we are.
And this was what Abby Anderson had put together. And I think we sent out to like 100 and some businesses in the 2 communities, so.
They have it in their council packet too.
Oh, awesome.
Yep. So just so you guys know, with statutes and everything, we can't technically donate any money. The thing we have donated in previous years is a pool party to the pool. So obviously it's somewhat dependent on if the pool can open.
If we get the pool up and running.
So that's why that was after that. So would anyone like to make a
I
motion?
make a motion, if it's up and running, we give them a pool party, and I want to be there too.
We're gonna need it to get the value out of that cost.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Vote please. All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, number 12, OPPD, annual visit and update regarding current projects for the year and initiatives.
Well, good evening. My name is Chris Meeks. I'm with the Local Government Affairs team. Mailing address 444 South 16th Street Mall. That's in Omaha. And I'm here with the Local Government Affairs team. You may recognize my name through either our newsletter that has come out or different correspondences, as well as Michaela Valentine and Dustin Marble. That's our team, and we're really your contacts for is the city council and the elected officials here in Valley for anything that is related to OPPD. So really, we will come out here and present to the meetings if we have any projects or initiatives that really are going to affect the city or anything we're specifically working on. And we also like to do these annual updates. I know sometimes they're not necessarily annual, maybe biannual. Every once in a while we're out here, but kind of give you an update on really what we're working on, what projects you're seeing, and what we're excited about for the year. So really, kind of the 2 biggest projects that we have going on at OPPD right now. We have 2 new power plants that are opening up. So Standing Bear Lake Station has 8 reciprocating engines, basically great big cruise ship engines. And Turtle Creek Station down in Sarpy County is 2 combustion turbines. So both of these power plants, they run on dual fuel. So the primary fuel that's going through them is natural gas. They're on natural gas lines. But in the event that either natural gas is going to residential purposes and it's the priority goes to those, or there's any issues, they have the ability to run on fuel oil, which is basically a big diesel fuel that vehicles run on. So it really gives us that resiliency that if there are issues, we still have the ability to produce power at both of those plants. They're also really built, for the wintertime, what they're called is peaking stations. So when those 2 plants come online, similarly to our existing Sarpy County Station, Cass County Station, is when we need that power demand. So they don't run all the time. It's when kind of the power is peaking and when we need that power for different purposes. In the wintertime, as an example. So both of those plants are built to withstand and operate in extreme cold, -40, -30 degrees for Turtle Creek Station. And as we're seeing, that wintertime peak is really important and that power capacity is important. If we have ice jams on the river, for example, it's possible that our coal plants that are on the river, they have to come online because they don't have the water to cool. So really bringing those different power sources and a complete and varied source for generating electricity is really important for us. So that's really a focus that we're working on right now. I'm also here following the March 19th blizzard. I know that probably many of us in this room were out of power for a little while through that. It's officially one of our top 5 storms for power outages. 132,000 people lost power during that storm throughout the service territory, so that's a huge number. And really the big number is just raw damage to a lot of the infrastructure. Over 1,100 power poles had to be replaced in that. So the previous storm that we touted was obviously the July 29th windstorm that came through Omaha last year. For perspective, many more power outages through that storm. About 220,000 people were out of power with that storm, but it was only about 1/3 of the damage to power poles. So we replaced 450 or so poles following that windstorm. The blizzard is obviously 1,100, much more, a lot of damage, a lot of different damage that we've seen. Saunders County, really the area to the west of the metro really got hit hard, and we saw a lot of damage there. And that was kind of those extended repairs. There's really a huge amount of fixing that had to take place. So as we move forward through the year, we're going to continue to build up our system and really try to do our best to keep the grid operating when we have those storms that come through, and hopefully minimize power outages. Additionally, we just announced a new contract with Kiewit that we have 4 more gas turbine engines that are going to be built and coming online here in 2029. So one of those engines is going to be located at Turtle Creek Station. So we're in the situation where we're just getting nearing final completion of that plant, and we're already doing a groundbreaking to expand that plant some more. So it's a ribbon cutting and a groundbreaking kind of all on the same day for 2 degree. And then we're also going to have 3 more engines at Cass County Station. So 5 total gas turbines at that station. It'll be 1,000 megawatts of electricity produced there when all is said and done. So that's going to be a huge number. It'll be a huge asset for us in the future. I'm also going to tout that the first of the year, the local GA team kind of changed our newsletter around a little bit and put it in a different software to more easily for us send the information out to you. And we hope it ultimately looks better. It's more presentable on your phone, on your computer, and we can kind of gauge that a bit more. Have some additional links and everything like that. So that is available to obviously the elected officials in the room, as well as the clerk, the city administrator, just to give us, to allow us to pass some of that information along. So anybody who isn't receiving that newsletter, feel free to get in contact with me. I'll make sure your name is on the list. We send a lot of exciting information out through that. And really, kind of one of the things we're also working on that is going to go hand in hand with that newsletter is we're trying to create a toolkit for local leaders to have information at your disposal to send out when needed. So if it's preparing for a storm, you can send out some of the graphics in the social media posts that we have for to report your outages if you have a power outage, or just general graphics and information of how OPPD delivers electricity, how things are produced, just general information that I know elected officials and really cities like to send out and provide to their constituents. And really what we're creating is kind of a resource hub for you to go to find that information and be able to share it out. So watch for that in the coming months through that newsletter. And and I'd say we're also, any other initiatives. We have, over the next few years, we're working on transmission lines that are going all over the service territory. Advanced meters is exciting technology that's coming out. Really more to come on that. But there's a lot of good projects that we're working on. Really exciting things that we're really excited for our customers, and really positive technology and improvements for the future. So with that, happy to answer any questions of the council if you have any, or any discussion items for us.
I just want to say personally, thank you to all the linemen. It's a thankless job, all the hours and everything that they did for us. So just wanted to say thank you.
I'll pass that along, because they were unbelievably hard. We'll thank the OPPD linemen that are in the field. We all know them. They work every day on our system, as well as our mutual aid partners that come in these big events. I think with 750 or so mutual aid crews from Kentucky and Arkansas and down south, they came in and they were fixing these power poles that had, really the power lines. And really part of the problem was the ice freezing on the lines. It made so much weight that it dragged it down. So I think a lot of those guys are probably glad they live down south and they're not in Nebraska when we have these ice storms. But yes, we definitely thank our linemen, our field crews, and those mutual aid partners that came up to help us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, number 13, conditional use permit, Jerry Smith accessory building or accessory structure, exception 25050, Highway 275.
Okay, so Jerry's not here, so I'll speak on it. I think we've talked about it before. It's been through planning. Planning, I want to say, was 7-1 against not allowing this exemption. 6-1, 7-1. I know everyone voted against it except one person. On top of that, just for location-wise, this is at 2505 Highway 275. When you're heading out of town, it's kind of one of our last buildings in our jurisdiction. It's the big red barn, kind of the way I put it, with all the screening fence. Just give you guys a little backstory. The building goes up. I had no idea about it. I reached out to the homeowner already probably a year ago saying, hey, you need a permit, and also said permit will be denied because you put up a building that doesn't abide by our commercial design standards. It doesn't abide by like a lot of standards, and he put it up anyways. So then this exemption kind of was discussed about not just for his property, but for certain properties, that as long as all of these accessory building or accessory structure exemptions were met, then we could grant exceptions. For example, landscaping company, they've got, tents to cover up their sand, or, smaller, again, these are all smaller with a lot of items. Specifically, he met all of them except 5, 6, 7, 8, I'm not good at Roman numerals, 8 out of 9. Nope, 7 out of 9, no accessory structure building shall be visible from the street. Clearly his is visible from the street, and now to add insult to injury, he'll be getting a nuisance letter from me because said tent is falling apart. Which, again, back to why that permit would have probably originally never been allowed anyways, if said permit would have been pulled. So, if you guys have any questions, let me know.
Questions for Rune? All right, we'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak about this? All right, we will close the public hearing. So then before us, we have resolution 2025-02, which is what would allow this exception. A reminder, as Rune indicated, the Planning Commission did deny this. They did not recommend it be approved. So it's up to whatever you guys would like to do.
What would it look like, if it didn't get approved, what's the next steps there?
So the next step is, there's a couple steps I can take. One is the nuisance property thing, which has to be removed. Any of these things, it's in our ETJ. So the next step would be telling him he had to remove it. He refuses to remove it, then we essentially start with a citation. We have to work with the sheriff, Douglas County Sheriff, because it's in our ETJ.
How much time would you have to remove it?
Once I send him a letter, he could theoretically fill out an extension form, considering this has been going on for the last year and a half. I'm not very inclined to give him a very long time to remove it, 30 days.
It's up to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would be just shooting from the hip. Again, that thing is not very hard to take down, clearly. So obviously if it was a giant old museum, there's probably a longer time for things to be taken down, right? That's kind of where my giving a chance, right? It's a tent that's halfway falling down at this point. So I would, again, 30 days. If he doesn't, we start the citation process, and then we probably start the nuisance process, which gives us the ability to go in which case I can only assume that I will then end up in court, which is why, to go back to previous stuff that we were talking about, everything in here needs to be very specific and very enforceable. If not, I'm the one that has to be in front of a judge explaining the decisions that were made. So it might get to that point, which if it is, I'm prepared for that. Obviously, everything we've done is correct. He didn't follow the process.
Well, considering that it's already starting to fall down and everything, I say we deny it and you start doing it. You send him a letter, you give him 30 days.
Yeah, that's the goal. He could theoretically say, well, I'm gonna try and fix it, in which case you're still in violation of another. So we would just have to get with our attorneys and
sign it.
Start the process, work with Beth, has a good contact with one of the Douglas County sheriffs. So we'll start that process.
I make the motion.
We technically don't need a motion because the motion is to approve the resolution, so we would just do nothing.
Well,
essentially.
It said in here to approve or
The second
deny.
resolution is to not deny it.
Oh.
One resolution is
To approve or
the other
deny.
one is deny. So we either approving or denying.
Okay.
I'm
Oh, got it,
saying
sorry.
deny.
Okay, so Linda, you're making a motion to approve resolution 2025-02, which is to deny the exception.
Correct.
Okay,
I second.
vote please. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, number 14, Shouse's barndominiums, consideration and approval to amend existing sections of the City of Valley planning regulations related to Shouse's / barndominiums.
Okay, so this one has come up a couple times with a couple different people asking me about, hey, we want to put up a shouse, we want to put up, they call them a barn dominium, we have it in our definitions as a shouse. Rule of thumb, if there's not anything specific in the code, I don't just start making stuff up. I go to you guys and say, hey, we probably need to clarify this. So this was kind of a clarification of what is allowed for shouses. So originally, the shouse definition, I can go over that. I can tell you what the proposed one is. I just kind of put in also known as barn dominium. We have a reference to 9.22.06, which adds to the list of 15 items that we had regulations for shouses. It added 4 more that kind of added just a little bit of extra stuff because people were saying, well, what if I build a barn dominium on my residential property? Again, you guys are gonna laugh. I've had this conversation. I'm not making it up. And I add just 15 garage doors down it. Okay, well, it goes against the intent of the code, but we didn't have it anywhere that stated it, right? So it was kind of this gray zone. So again, you guys laugh. I had the conversation. I was like, no, anyways. So there's a couple notes in here. No garage sidewall shall exceed 16 feet in height. That's just to our accessory structure. Garage space, that's where we had the limiting factor in here. This is kind of the important part of it. Shall be limited to 1.5 times the dwelling space of the square footage. That way you can't put a 900 square foot living space and 50,000 square feet of garage and say, hey, it's a shouse. There's some limit to it. Then there was a minimum 1 hour firewall should be constructed between any dwelling spaces abutting garage space. Again, if you have a larger garage, you obviously have a lot more potential for gas cans, multiple vehicles, fire hazard. You're putting a house essentially up against a garage. So there's just some added fire safety measures there. If you guys have specific, I can read through it, or you just have.
The only question I have on this.
Yeah.
Is the number 6, treehouse. We're telling mom and dad you need a permit to build little Johnny a treehouse?
Where are you seeing that? That's not.
Under ordinance 836, number 6. Down at the bottom there, it says treehouse. A dwelling unit where the primary structure of the unit is based on one or more tree clusters.
I would feel like it would be a difference between dwelling, like if the child isn't going
I
to
know,
live there, but I don't.
That's what I'm trying to.
So I didn't.
Somewhere along the line where I'm thinking is common sense needs to kick in.
So the treehouse wasn't part of this. It made it on the way to the definitions. I didn't touch treehouses. I didn't
Okay.
change anything with treehouses. I didn't add anything with
That's the only
treehouses.
thing that threw me on this
No.
whole thing.
That you were just getting the whole snippet of definitions, which included that. I just specifically changed the definition for shouse.
Okay.
That's it. I didn't touch anything else.
I wish you would have just highlighted.
Well, I got it redlined here. I don't know if it
No, it didn't come across.
makes it
that
to
way.
you guys redlined, but
Zoom, where did you pull some of this information from? Was there an ordinance that you copied that other cities?
yeah, so there was one in Kansas that had some stuff. I want to say it was Wichita. I usually like to try and keep it as local as possible. That was one of the ones that I could find that was close, that just added some. They had also a limited, they had it worded differently and kind of confusing in my opinion. So I changed it a little bit, but that's where I grabbed quite a few of these from. Same with number 17, 18, and 19 I added to 9.22.06. And 17 is just reiterating that is built with residential construction materials. We have it in other parts of the code, but might as well just add it in there. So that's the definition, that is the requirements for houses that we have. And then the matrix just then, this is where it changes. Currently, a house was just a conditional use permit or a conditional use in transitional ag. I changed it to permitted just because transitional ag, usually there's some lighter restrictions to it. And then it was a conditional under R1, R2, and R3. So every barn dominium would still have to go to you guys, would still have to be reviewed. It's not a blanket pass. It's just saying, hey, it's a conditional use and you guys have to, just like any other conditional use, review it, look at the plans again. So
Why would we need to weigh in on that if we can pass a good enough ordinance that you can just give guidance?
sure, yeah, if you guys want me just to make it permitted and they have to follow all these rules anyways, I'm fine with that. That's up to you guys. I can, just make it permitted in R1, R2, R3.
Yeah.
Again, of course, they have to follow
Just leave the
everything.
treehouse out of that.
Yeah.
That's the definition. Defining what the treehouse is.
Okay, so that would just change those three, R1, R2, R3 from conditional to permitted. Okay. So we'd have to approve it as amended, right? I don't know. That's more up to Jeff, I guess.
I'm sorry, I was looking at you. What's the question?
So they can approve it as amended, right? Okay, sure.
Okay, any other questions for Ruth?
And this came up because I had at least 3 or 4 separate people ask me about barn dominiums, houses, and again, if I can try and get ahead of the curve of something, it's hard, but try to. So here we are.
I make a motion that we approve as
We
amended.
have to do that. To open the public hearing first, is there anyone that would like to speak? Okay, we'll close the public hearing.
So are you saying there's like, so if somebody came to you and said, I want to build a barn dominium, I want to live in part of it, I want to have my horses in part of it, and like an indoor arena. Are you saying that they're limited by the size of that? Let's say they're like kind of outside, but they're still within your jurisdiction. So they're not in the city doing this, but they're.
Yep.
So they're limited to the space that they can do.
Based off the acreage.
What?
Should be based off the acreage.
Accessory buildings are based off the acreage.
So if I have 10 acres and I can't, and I don't want to build a regular home, I want to just build a barn dominium
Correct.
with my horses and my indoor arena, I'm only subject to a certain
Correct.
footage.
Yeah. Correct.
So I could do the whole top living part of that and build everything down below?
Sure.
As long as.
Yeah, as long as it's the what do we have, dwelling space, which we have a definition for dwelling. Planning brought that up. We have a reference to a dwelling space. I think I had habitable space before and we didn't have a definition. But yeah, absolutely. You could do that as long as it didn't exceed 1.5 times the dwelling space. So.
Is that okay?
Yeah, it's gonna love it.
Yeah, no, I just was saying for somebody that may want to do that, you might have to add a little more space for that then. I think you're limiting. Because they're not gonna come into town and do that. Obviously, they're gonna go on one of the acreages outside of town, that's still jurisdiction, by you guys, but it's something to consider, like you might wanna add more space to that. Is that 2? Is that 2.5? I don't know, I'm just, something to think about.
It's up to you guys.
Well, if it is acreages, multiple acreages, not just 8 acre, but 10 acres or whatever,
So we could probably do it based on zoning.
and zoning,
Because if we went by acreage, accessory structures go by acreage. So if you've got 10 acres, you can put a huge arena up. As long as you're within your setbacks, you're good. So with zoning, you could just say, hey, if you're transitional ag, that number is instead of 1.5 times, 2.5 times, 5 times, I don't know, it's up to you guys, 10 times. I don't really care as long as there's a 1-hour fire separation. I'm concerned about life safety.
I think what you're originally trying to prevent is having a giant box built with a tiny little bit of that being housed and the big thing being a storage barn. And so I think there is a multiplier, you have 1.5, so on 1,000 square foot dwelling apartment, whatever the dwelling portion is, you'd have a 1,500 square foot garage space.
Mhm.
So ultimately, you could reasonably have a 2,500 square foot building
Mhm.
as that stands.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that's big enough,
Well, I don't know if you're out on acreages and have horses, it may not be.
but what he's saying is you could have other accessory buildings. And we could also do this through some sort of variance process as well. I don't like variances, but it feels like we would want to have a concrete number for people to work off of.
Yeah, the second you open, I mean, again, it's up to you guys. I enforce the rules. I try not to create them. Obviously, I'm up here all the time, but it's up to you guys.
For me, I like the idea of, if you're gonna build a house, I would be building a bigger garage. I mean, if I personally was building a house, I don't know, maybe someday, but, the idea of, if I had 1,000 square feet, I would want more than 1,500 as a garage space or indoor play space or whatever it is for horses, those types of things down the road. I don't know what that number should be, so.
Yeah, 1.5 was shooting from the hip. Hey, this seems good, because of course, you're always still, you're restricted to your lot size, you're restricted, but again, there are multiple in town that are zoned residential that are 1 to 2 to 3 acres. So
that seems to make sense in R1, 2, and 3, but in TA, I think you could have a larger footprint without any sort of concerns.
Sure, yeah. We could do,
Greg, do you see any problems with any of this? What have you seen elsewhere? I mean, I know there's some around Gretna.
We haven't seen any of these come up in other jurisdictions yet.
Should we table the ordinance for this week and have Varun do some more research and come back with some proposals?
That sounds good.
I mean, the only research is just that multiplier. Is it 3? Is it 5? Again, that's a little bit more up to you guys. I know
there's other people in other counties, more west of us that have this, that have bigger facilities, so I mean, I can help you get names or something if you wanna reach out to them. It's just something that for your research, but.
Bryn, let's table this.
Sure.
I think it's very reasonable. I think we're tabling it for the right reason, to come back to it and see what size we ultimately want to build. And let's do a little bit of research. I know there's a number of them in Madison County and up in that area, Sheridan. They're a lot bigger than what we would probably build, but I think this makes sense in that TA.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So.
Yep.
Okay, so John, are you making a motion to table this so that Varun can do a little bit more research and make some changes?
Second.
Okay, vote please. All in favor? Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Okay, we could also potentially just remove the multiplier for TA and not have it have a limit. And then you're just based on the size of your property and your setbacks. So that could be an option as well.
All right, number 15, we have removed from the agenda. Number 16, library consideration and approval of interlocal agreement with Douglas County, Nebraska, Douglas County Libraries in the City of Valley. Sammy, do you have anything you want to, or Jeff, are you talking about this? Okay.
Jeff Farnham, City Attorney, 220 North 89th Street, Omaha, Nebraska. I've read the agreement. It's a 7-year term starting July 25th. The agreement calls for differing contributions, and I talked to Sammy, and we both felt that we needed to put some information together about what the contributions have been, just for the council's information, so that they would know what they were voting on and approve it, so we would ask to lay it over for a month. And there's no time crunch at all, because it's, as I say, July 1st, 2025 for 7 years, so.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to table number 16 as well.
Second.
Vote please. Thank you. Okay, number 17, Baird Home. The council majority is requesting that George E. Martin III from Baird Home be considered and voted on as a second legal counsel to the City of the Valley, to be used on a case-by-case basis or contracted as an as-needed basis. So I do have a couple questions and statements before we get started on this one. to council members Hayden, Lewis, and Lewis. Your email on 331 with the council quorum on the email indicates the council majority had already decided on a specific second attorney. I would like to understand when that decision was made by the council majority, since it wasn't an open meeting, and how did the majority of the council determine George Martin was the appropriate attorney?
On February 11th, at our meeting, if you go to 25 minutes and 10 seconds, I had a dialogue with Andrea, and it's recorded. I asked, actually at the start of the David Black open meeting, I asked, should we consider? He was sure you could. So then I went further and I asked Andrea if this is something that we wanted to do, if it violates any ordinances. She said no. I asked if it violates state statute. She said no. I asked if it violated municipal codes. She said no. I asked her in very clear terms to please tell me step 1, step 2, step 3, how to conduct this. She gave those instructions. So then I followed her instructions. On March 17th, I wrote a formal email to our city attorney asking them to reach out, and step 1 of Andrea's instructions was to ask our council to engage their council and get an engagement letter. On March 20th, I received an email back from Farnham saying I will not get an engagement letter, but I will ask Christy and forward it to her to be on the agenda on April 8th council meeting. On March 24th, I had a one-on-one with Jeff, asked him again, do you intend on getting an engagement letter? I felt that it was important that if this is going to be an item that we were going to vote on, but the public has the right to know what the retaining amount was and its hourly cost, I felt it was not adequate to make a vote on hiring a second legal attorney without offering the community to see what his hourly wage was. He said, no, again, I do not feel comfortable getting that engagement letter until you guys vote on it. March 31st, I sent a formal email to Christy with the said engagement letter because I had doubts that an actual email was sent on March 20th to Christy to ask her to put it on the April 8th agenda, and I followed up. For the municipal code, if council majority or anyone on the council is interested in discussing a topic, it has to be on the agenda. For my experience, asking for items to be on the agenda as my own self were rejected and weren't on the agenda. So it's the only way that we can get something on the agenda to have an open discussion in front of the public. No decision has been made.
Okay, so again, the questions weren't about the process. The questions are about that the council majority and a council quorum is on an email, which can be perceived as a violation of the Open Meetings Act. Open Meetings Act clearly states that the formation of public policy is public business and may not be conducted in secret. Additionally, every meeting of the public body shall be open to the public in order that citizens may exercise their democratic privileges of attending or speaking in the meetings of public bodies. If the council majority is all on the same emails and has already made decisions related to that, I believe that this could be constituted as a violation of the Open Meetings Act. According to Nebraska Revised Statutes 84-1410, any member of a public body who knowingly violates or conspires to violate, or who attends or remains at a meeting knowing that the public body is in violation of any provision of the Open Meetings Act shall be guilty of a Class 4 misdemeanor for a first offense and Class 3 misdemeanor for a second or subsequent offense. Due to the fact that there is a potential violation of the Open Meetings Act and the Douglas County Attorney has not been able to review this yet, I will be excusing myself to the meeting so that I do not subject myself to personal liability. I will now turn the meeting over to Council President John Batcher, and you can let me know when I can come back. Thank you.
Well, unfortunately, I've been given the same guidance by my attorney that there's pretty clear evidence of violation of 84-1414 by 3 members of the council. And it was recommended that this go into closed session. Sounds like that was rejected. So I'm going to excuse myself, so I'm not in violation as the 3 of you are. I don't know who I turned this over to.
We don't have a vice president, so how are you do
These are our leaders.
The Girl Scouts, we need leaders.
Jeff Farnham was an email sent on March 20th to Christie to ask it to be on the agenda per the email that you sent me.
Yeah, we sent this to Christie.
Christie, did you receive it on March 20th? So who was the first person to make the request for this to be on the agenda?
You and Linda and Jake all at the same time.
March 20th wouldn't be the first time it was requested to be on the agenda for Jeff?
The first time that was requested to be on the agenda by the three of you is when I received it from you.
So you did not
In
receive the
violation
email?
of the Open Meetings Act. Jeff is not responsible for getting me a request from another attorney. You obviously don't understand how law firms work.
Why didn't Andrea tell me that on February 11th?
Well, I'm not gonna go through all that. There's a motion here, or resolution. You have a quorum of the council. If you wanna make a motion, you can do that and you can vote on it. Okay?
I would like answer to my question on March 20th, when you told me you would forward that request to Christie, did you forward that request to us?
I believe I did. I'd be happy to check by email and confirm that, but I'm not gonna sit here and get interrogated by you.
I just want to know if it was sent.
I think it was.
So then you would have
But I'll
made the
check.
first request,
I'll
not me.
check. No, I sent what you sent, your email to her because I felt you had a right to be on the agenda. Okay? And I may have just talked to her about it, but I think I sent an email. Now, if you want to get this done, you have the ability to make a motion and vote on it.
Well, you are a legal counsel. I've heard a lot of this could be or appears to be a violation of the Open Meetings Act. You can talk to us straight. You're representing us. Instead of it could be, possibly be, might be, directly, is it a violation?
I sent you, each council member, a privileged communication today and gave you my legal opinion. And I think that's the appropriate way to do that. That's a privileged communication, and you've all received it today. And if you want to get this accomplished, you have a quorum. One of you can make a motion and you can vote on it. You've gotten it on the agenda. That's what you wanted to do. We're here. We've talked about the state statute, appointing a city attorney and so on and so forth. You're here, you've got a quorum. It's time to act. If you want to do it, somebody's got to make a motion and you vote on it.
So, legal advice, not it could be, should be. Is it a violation of the Open Meetings Act, given the fact that February 11th, we asked your law firm for direction, and it was done in public, and those directions were executed?
I don't think that the directions that you describe have anything to do with what's going on here with relation to the Open Meetings Act. And yes, I think one reasonable interpretation of the way you presented this is that 3 council members, which constitutes a quorum, have agreed that the city hire Mr. Martin in a non-public meeting. That is certainly one reasonable interpretation of it. There may be others, but that is, I think, a reasonable interpretation of what occurred here. And that's all I'm going to say. I sent you a letter and told you what I thought of this whole affair. If it's time to put up or shut up, if this is what you want to do, you need to make a motion and you need to vote on it.
Can you define specifically where the violation is?
I'm not going to say any more about it. It's not my job to accuse people of things. I told you I thought it was a reasonable interpretation, and that's all I'm going to say.
A reasonable interpretation?
Yeah.
The
But now-
way, sorry.
Go ahead, no, you're okay.
No, it's all right. The way you got it on the agenda, is it a proper process?
The email that Melanie sent is certainly a proper way to request something to get on the agenda. Yes.
It was a proper process?
Sure.
That's not the violation.
Aren't you as their attorney supposed to represent each individual person sitting up there?
I represent the city.
So not the mayor and not the 4 council
I
members?
represent the city. What's in the best interest of the city?
You said it's a proper process of putting on the agenda.
It's on the agenda. It's on the agenda.
So it wouldn't be on the agenda if there was a problem with it?
Not
the process
necessarily. not necessarily, no.
Unless I'm mistaken, you guys, it's because you got a specific decision that you made as a quorum, not in an open meeting. That's the problem.
I'm not gonna litigate the open meeting question. I've told you,
Yeah,
I
there's-
sent you a letter. If you want to do this, you need to do it.
The only question, were you in the room at the same time, if you're not all three in the same room, it is not a quorum. You have every right to talk to each other. I was on this council for a long time. You have a right to communicate. So if you did this on the side.
I don't see a decision made. I saw a consideration for a decision to be made. I don't think that those three have violated by overstepping
They're
the
just trying to
city.
protect their own
They
butts, is
didn't
what they're
hire
trying
them
to do.
on. I think that was a little bit of overstep right now. Nobody's hired anybody on. It still looks like this is still a consideration to vote.
They're trying to find
I
somebody to
don't
protect
know
them
if-
because.
Yeah, because
I'm
clearly
just
the city
saying-
attorney is not protecting these three individuals sitting right here.
It's like this shit no more. This is ridiculous.
I don't.
Clearly, they are not protected.
Yeah, no one's in
There's
charge.
no need.
Yeah, there is no
Councilman,
reason.
Look
at me for.
This is, yeah, this is getting out of hand. This is not a public
I,
debate.
I'm not,
You've got
You have the
a,
power to do that.
I'm not the president of the council or anything.
Exactly, should not.
I don't have that power.
We don't know if we have that power.
you
That's
have the
problem.
power to make a motion
No,
to
actually,
approve.
No, you told me to get control of the.
no, you're okay. So I've actually had something prepared to be a little bit more professional in this matter. Given the increasing complexity of employment and government laws, it's both reasonable and responsible to consider expanding our legal resources. Having a deeper bench, particularly someone who specializes solely in employment and government law, can help us navigate sensitive matters with greater precision and reduce our potential exposure to liability. This is not a matter of replacing our current legal counsel, but rather enhancing our legal capacity in areas that require highly focused expertise. I believe, myself, Melanie Hayden, this is in the city's best interest and a prudent step towards more effective governance. Additionally, the intent is to utilize George Martin only on an as-needed basis. This would be case by case. There may be even weeks or months where his services aren't required at all. It's simply about having the right resources available when specific expertise is necessary, such as this one, where we don't know if we are in violation or not. We're told it can be interpreted, it's possible, it could appear to be, and it possibly could be. I need clear, direct, legal answers as your representative for the city of Valley. I'm not asking much. I need to know what my obligations are, what my risks are, and what the pros and cons are. I do not currently have that. I am seeking that. I am asking right now in public, am I in violation? I'm being told it appears to be, could be, possibly can be interpreted to be. If I can't get a yes or a no, then how am I supposed to proceed?
Well, let me address that, okay? I'd hoped it would come to this, but under the statutes that deal with the Open Meetings Act, a violation of the Open Meetings Act has criminal consequences. I am not your personal attorney, okay? If there are criminal consequences to your actions, you need to consult your personal attorney. I am the city's attorney. So that is why I say there is a reasonable interpretation. I am not going to accuse anybody of anything that could result in criminal culpability, okay? And so I'm not trying to dodge your question, but that's the reason. If any member of a public body, just in general, not speaking of anybody here tonight, does violate the act, then they can potentially be charged with a misdemeanor, okay? So that's a criminal consequence. And that's why I am not going to say that you or you or you violated anything. The facts are going to have to speak for themselves. That's not my job. That's the job of your personal attorney. I am doing my job by not accusing anybody here of anything. That's why I said it was a reasonable interpretation. It's one reasonable interpretation. And I'm not going to sit up here and grandstand like you've been doing. You can vote on your motion and do what you want to do. You're here, you've got a quorum. There's really nothing more to be said.
He's not protecting you. You have to protect yourselves at this point.
It's just,
And I would ask that there not be comments from the audience. It's not a public debate.
If we vote yes, will this get turned over?
I'm not going to speculate on that.
We had a member that said this was a violation. So that's up there.
I'll tell you what, I've been on this council for 14 and a half years, and I have never witnessed anything as pathetic as this whole sham. It's, we got a target on our backs, that's for sure. At this point I'm not disagreeing with you, Melanie, but I'm protecting myself. I'm saying we need to remove this from this agenda, I'm sorry. I have to protect myself. I am so sorry.
Or walk out as well.
If we made a motion to adjourn, what would that do?
Well, there's business left in the meeting.
Yeah, but
We don't know if anybody's coming back.
Well, they'll come.
They'll come back after
That's the plan.
this is over.
Yeah, that's their plan.
There's a lot left.
Well, I don't know if they're coming back.
They'll come back when this is over, when you've finished what you're going to do here.
Adjourn or walk out.
Well, if we walk out, they can't finish the meeting.
Quorum.
And they wouldn't have a quorum.
Well, there's other issues that the meeting is dealing with. If you feel that's in the city's best interest to abandon the rest of the meeting, I certainly don't agree, but that's up to you.
Well,
You have to protect yourselves.
Cindy and John walked out to protect themselves, so.
Well, they did that for a specific issue. When that issue is over, they will come back and the meeting will continue.
There is a motion out there by Linda to remove it from the agenda.
make a motion to adjourn.
A second. I'm done.
All in favor?
So item 22 is actual city business that needs to move forward.
I know it sucks.
Is there a motion? Meeting adjourned?
Yeah, second.
Yeah,
Did you vote?
yeah, we
We
did.
can't vote.
It's not working. It's gotta get turned on.
That's right now.
I'm gonna make it clear. I am not a puppet. Good job, you guys.
Stand up.
We all support you.
Stand up.
We all support you.
Stand up and be proud.
Yep,
Protect the state.
yep. Way to go. We support you.
Now, this is a new.
This is like.
This isn't anything about the attorneys about the pool. If they open the pool with the Band-Aid on it, and then they waited to the end of the year and closed it, would it be better to just not have it open this year and do construction on the one right where we're at?
I got it.
Because I feel.
They don't want that, so that's not coming before us.
Yeah, I know they wanted up with the Y that, and the Y, I just hope that the Y will pay for it if it goes up. And maybe we could put a fabulous splash pad
No,
or something.
I'm not.
It would, I just had a question.
All right.
I want to keep the pool here.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mouse ain't working.
Hold on.
It's going now.
Okay.
The